Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, Tuesday night, State of the Union watch party, 208-901-3800. We are so fired up about that when we're thinking about supporting the president and going on and on and on and on. Joining us now is the president and publisher of Regnery Publishing. We've known about Regnery for many, many years, had them on since, we started the show back in the early 1990s. Always a conservative publisher, and we appreciate their great authors and what they do. Marjorie Ross joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Not bad. Certainly, it's great to have you on. And for folks that aren't so familiar with your publication, we just had Luke Rosiak on. You guys get the conservatives, you get the message out, and you get them into books.
Well, thank you very much. That's right. We actually are the oldest conservative publisher in America and continue to be the leading conservative book publisher in the country. Regnery's been around for over 70 years. And we started off right. We published William F. Buckley Jr.'s very first book, God and Man at Yale. We published Russell Kirk's The Conservative Mind. We published Witness by Whittaker Chambers. So we have a great conservative legacy. And as you said, continue to do that today. Great that you had Luke on. He has an amazing book and a story that, of course, the Democrats don't want anybody to hear about.
Well, and you go back to, Ann Coulter and all these other folks. You've
right.
launched their careers. I had a friend of mine, still works in PR, Sean McCabe, who, with Greg Mueller, founded CRC. And
absolutely. We worked with Sean on a number of books. And like you said, we launched a lot of conservative
It just
authors.
doesn't happen. I'm sorry to interrupt, but what people don't understand, but it just doesn't happen. It takes people like you at Regnery to believe in these folks now more than ever. And now I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. It's an uphill battle, as you know, to get the conservative message out because of mainstream media, because of social media. There's such a powerful left-wing slant to most of the media that most people hear just kind of on a, everyday basis, unless they're tuning in to stations like yours, unless they're reading Regnery books. So we've got a really important job, you and I.
Well, I'm with you. And when we take a look at the world we live in today, it is different from Ann Coulter when you launched her, Barbara Olson, now Luke Rosiak and others. Mm-hmm. How does a publication, 70 years, we go back to William F. Buckley, Russell Kirk, classic conservative printed books that have made such a difference in the lives of talk show hosts to people across the country. How do you guys continue the fight in the world we live in today?
Well, it starts with all the people here, honestly. Everyone is dedicated to not just book publishing, but the conservative message. And that's really important. And our authors understand that. They feel that when they come and work with us, they know that they're working with like-minded people. They're working with people who share their values. They're working with people who respect conservative Americans and, frankly, the majority of Americans out there in the country who have just sort of common sense, family-oriented values that are constantly being vilified, being criticized, being mocked by the far left. And that is so frustrating for people that it makes it really inspiring for us to be able to talk to that part of the country and bring them wonderful books. So we fight hard every day, and we make sure that we send our authors out to get the word out through shows like yours and all the conservative talk radio shows all across the country. That's a really important way to make sure that the conservative point of view is heard.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the vice president and what Regnery is doing to support him and his wife.
Well, thank you. I'd be happy to. Yeah, we are very proud to be the publishers of a series of children's books by Karen Pence, the second lady, and Charlotte Pence, her daughter. And last year we brought out the very first book in this series. It's called Marlon Bundo's Day in the Life of the Vice President, and it's a really cute children's book about what the Vice President's job is. And the narrator, so to speak, is Marlon Bundo, who is a real live bunny. He's the second family's pet bunny. And so this cute little black and white bunny sort of hops through the pages and teaches kids what the Vice President's job is. Nonpartisan, no political axe to grind in this book. It's just a really delightful children's book. But earlier this year, when Mrs. Pence announced that she was going to go back to her career, which was teaching, she announced that she was going to be teaching art class 2 days a week at a local Christian school here in Washington, D.C., right out in the suburbs of D.C. And this somehow was offensive to the left, that she was going to teach art in a Christian school. And they launched a really ugly attack against her and called her and the school, and by extension, frankly, all Christians in America, homophobic and haters and anti-this and that. And it was just really ugly, totally uncalled for. And so Regnery, we decided, you know what, we're going to show our support for Mrs. Pence by donating 100 copies of her book to the school, so that those kids can have a positive image of what government service means, and a cute educational book about what the Vice President's job is, instead of what the left tries to do all the time, which is use children as a political tool to advance their agenda.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of the heat that the Vice President and his family is taking for sticking up for values and teaching kids. And who would have thought that books would be, well, you guys would think books would be political. But
we know that. But children's books and kids, I think we as a country, no matter what political side we're on, I think everybody agrees that kids should be off limits, and children's books really should be written and published and promoted to help kids learn something, to instill positive values, to give them encouragement, and to help explain the world. And certainly that's what this book does and is intended to do. We, as I said, we brought it out last year. It was a big national bestseller, and we have 2 more Marlon Bundo books coming this year. But as you well know, and as your listeners know, the left never misses a chance to attack anything that has to do with this administration. They never miss a chance to attack Christian values. So with Karen Pence, they got a twofer, right? They had a chance to attack both in one fell swoop.
Right.
And that's what they've done from John Oliver, the quote comedian who published a satire book on Marlon Bundo. Again, just an excuse to rail against the Vice President and his wife and his family, and frankly, by extension, really Christians all over this country. That's just an example of what of the sort of ugly ad hominem attacks that conservatives have had to endure, frankly, for years, but that seem to be ramping up, in the most recent couple of years, and certainly we've seen that just this month with what's happening with Karen Pence.
Now, what do y'all have coming up? We've had Luke, we've had Noah on, and like I said, I proudly read every Regnery book that we get, and have known you guys for years. What can we do to continue to support Regnery?
Well, thank you. A couple of things. One thing is, I should mention that we have a special offer on our website, regnery.com, so that anybody who wants to support Karen Pence and the Vice President can show their support by sending a copy of Marlon Bundo's Day in the Life of the Vice President to their local school. So you can go to our site and do that. We're offering that at cost. We're not making any money on that. The Pences are not making any money on that. But we thought, let's give everyone a chance to make sure the Second Lady's book gets to schools all over the country. And then, of course, we've got a lot more really important conservative books coming later this year. Names that you will recognize. We've got a new book with Sebastian Gorka. We've got a new book coming with Dennis Prager. We've got a new book coming from David Limbaugh. We've got a new book coming with Michelle Malkin. And, of course, 2 more books with the Second Lady.
Well, between, Prager and Gorka and Malkin, it's a lot of introverts you have there.
That's what we look for in our authors. Shy, retiring,
right.
People who won't ruffle any feathers.
Indeed. Marjorie, these are all warriors, and that's what you have to be. That's what you have to be increasingly to get the conservative side out, and that's certainly what you have to be if you're a conservative author. Indeed, and you take a lot of hits. A lot of folks don't understand the social media, that they can censor our people, but the libs just go crazy and go after us all the time, especially the folks in the national spotlight.
Right. That's exactly right. It's sad but true, and so we know that, and it just makes us have to be even smarter and even stronger.
Well, Marjorie, thank you. You have a great day. God bless, and thank you for sticking up for the Pence and for all the great work Regnery does.
Thank you very much. It was great to be with you.
All right. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Here we have some news out of Boise. No, there's no repeal of the state grocery tax, but Governor Little has taken the first steps to eliminate excessive regulations in all levels of government. Does that mean that big business goes unfettered? I can't wait to hear what Dave Petzo has to say with us on Monday from the Petzo Center. Of course, you don't have to wait till Monday to listen to Dave. He'll be on tomorrow talking about, these issues, money matters. You got to love Dave Petzo. He does a great job. Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, been with us for many, many years. I think the longest-running show on this station. Coming up, though, I do want to talk a little bit about where is the repeal of the grocery tax. That hasn't happened. The difference between Idaho, Virginia, and New York. And it's funny, now we've got our folks in Utah taking note of this. I guess a couple places actually in Utah actually keep track of what's going on here in Idaho. Well, I don't think they have enough to do in Utah then. You're listening to Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home. Good morning, Pete.
Kevin, something I've been wondering on this baby murder bills in New York and Virginia, and I haven't heard anything on of course, the national news about this. Have the heads of the various churches in the world come out and condemn this?
Nothing from the Pope. Nothing from anybody else.
No, not like Archbishop of Canterbury. None of them.
Nope, no Archbishop of Canterbury.
But the Pope did.
No, we haven't heard from the Pope.
Oh, we haven't.
He's too busy saying that. He's too busy saying the devil is behind these molestations.
Yeah, it's. You would think this would be a very, very clear moral shocker for them that they would come out and strongly condemn. For that matter, I've wondered for years why people like Nancy Pelosi and Mr. Cuomo in New York haven't been excommunicated. But, we don't want to get political, right?
Well, that's a very good question. Why hasn't the Archdiocese of Albany or the Diocese of New York taken Cuomo to task and said, "You're done, Cuomo"? Yeah,
I mean, the guy signed a bill that'll let some murder babies.
We all, the Christians, we believe in communion, and where is why should he be allowed to take communion? Why should he be allowed to be in a Catholic church?
Exactly.
Oh, but it's no big deal. It's no this, no that. It is. It is a big deal.
Oh, it's huge. It's if the church isn't willing, any of the churches are not willing to defend the truly innocent, which, I mean, we see people from the churches defending murderers who've gotten the death penalty, but I don't see anybody lining up to appeal the death penalty for these kids. I'm sorry.
That's really what it comes down to. Is, are we going to stand up for principle, and are we going to stand up for life?
Yeah, and that's, I believe the Constitution talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, if you kill them when they're born, they don't have much of a chance to pursue happiness.
You would wonder.
Yeah.
Pete, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Kevin.
And here we have it from EWTN, the Albany bishop asking about Cuomo, should he be excommunicated?
In excommunication. Can you expand on why or why not that may be the case?
Well, as I say, his advocacy for this bill distances himself more and more from the truth of what we believe is the sanctity of all human life. And this weird celebration almost of the killing of not only of unborn children, but also the destruction of the lives of their mothers and the families that they would be a part of. So this continues to alienate him from the church. But you know what? I think our bigger battle is not against Governor Cuomo, but against the ideology that continues to promote this cancerous view.
So, in other words, the Archbishop is not going to do anything. There's your answer, Pete. Josh in Eagle with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Josh.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, abortion has always been obviously an amazingly huge atrocity, but it used to be a shameful thing and a thing done in secret. And for the first time, this is the first time abortion's been celebrated and pink lights flashed all over, buildings. And it's despicable. It's completely despicable. And this nation's cup of judgment's going to be overflowing pretty soon. I can tell you that much.
Well, Josh, we appreciate the call. Thank you. Liberty Linda joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. Every woman waits to hear that first cry after she delivers her baby, and they put her newly born baby in her arms. Kevin, it's the most sweetest and marvelous thing in the world. With one of my daughters, I thought right after her birth, she said to me, "I'm here." Years later, when she was about 18 years of age, she said to me, "I know, Mommy, right after I was born, I said to you, I'm here." I couldn't believe it, Kevin. Exactly what I heard her say spiritually right after she was born. So don't tell me they don't already have sweet little spirits in them at birth. So thank you, Kevin, for standing up for the baby.
God bless, Liberty Linda. You take care.
You as well. Hey, thank you, Kevin.
Bye-bye. Want to remind everybody, coming up Tuesday, we will be at Dave & Buster's for the State of the Union watch party and then the post-State of the Union show. You can RSVP now at Dave's 208-901-3800. 208-901-3800. David Ripley coming up next from Idaho Chooses Life. We'll talk about the battle for life here in the Gem State on 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Blessed to be a part of your day. Joining us now, David Ripley, Idaho Chooses Life. Good morning, sir.
My friend, how are you?
Usually when we talk, it's you, me, and the proud warriors that continue to support life, but what's recently going on across the country has seemingly galvanized the nation about the continued threat of abortion. Let's talk about your reaction to what happened in New York, and obviously that bill was shot down in Virginia, but how crazy is the world getting?
Well, the fact is evil is getting bolder, I think. And, we saw that even with Nancy Pelosi, within days of becoming the speaker during the government shutdown, they passed an emergency appropriation bill, which included money for Planned Parenthood International as part of the emergency funding and Nancy Pelosi's priorities. The fact of the matter is, you see, in those two states, I'm guessing California is going to follow suit. You're actually talking about legalizing post-birth abortions. And, that the governor in Virginia discussing that legislation, it sounded like, it's just some kind of science fiction, evil, freakoid movie, right, where the baby is supposedly going to negotiate for his life if he survives the womb. It is just a travesty and an indictment on where this culture is headed.
Indeed. You would think, though, with Donald Trump and the victories we've had on the Supreme Court, that it would be going for the other way. You've got the Democrats, Fox News now reporting, pushing for late-term abortion bills, with multiple states now considering those horrendous proposals. Your reaction, David Ripley?
Well, the good news is that in the state of New York and Virginia and California, there are federal statutes. There's a federal ban on partial birth abortion. There's also a federal law called the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, which would make those are still illegal. That kind of behavior and treatment of newborns is illegal under federal law. The problem in those states, of course, is that, first of all, the state government is sending a message that kind of behavior is acceptable and not a problem, right? It also says that a state prosecution would not take place, that you would have to have a federal prosecutor enforce those federal statutes. And I'm guessing that that's unlikely given the political culture in those states.
David Ripley joining us, IdahoChoosesLife.org on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. So let's talk a little bit about a bill that I'm surprised has not gotten a lot of national attention yet, introduced by Representative Scott, Representative Green, that would make abortion in Idaho murder. Your thoughts on why this bill and the reaction of the representatives in the House?
Well, that notion has been in the conversation for the last several years in Idaho. The fact is that I think there's a lot of virtue with that legislation in terms of I think it's a great teaching tool. I think it's poor legislation, however, with respect to criminalizing, to the point of incarcerating and perhaps even sentencing women with, murder charges. You have accomplices of murder that could take place, people being charged with has been accomplice to murder. And then I've tried to explain to some of those folks that, prior to Roe, the state of Idaho criminalized abortion and prosecuted abortionists, but has never prosecuted a woman and has never treated the woman to abortion charges. And so I'm not sure that that's the right time for us to be considering legislation like that. I don't think it's going to work, and I don't think we have the ability to overturn Roe in that way. Our philosophy in Idaho Chooses Life, we treat the abortion issue as an emergency, basically, and our legislative approach is designed to save as many babies as fast as we can, looking for the day when Roe is overturned. And I think we have some hope in that regard with respect to this president and the appointments that he's gotten. And I'm just praying that he will soon get another appointment to the court.
Well, what will be the liberal reaction? We have an op-ed from the vice president that life is under attack.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, and the fact is, I think you could even look at Pelosi in Virginia and New York as reactions to the pro-life values being promoted by this president, by the success of the pro-life movement across the country. in terms of imposing greater restrictions on the practice of abortion. I think the abortion industry is worried, which is why I think they're becoming more radical and rabid. I think they're worried about the fact that the culture is shifting away from, the horror of abortion. And I think we're looking at a time when they're in serious trouble. I mean, in a weird kind of way, those developments are of some encouragement because they are being exposed for being, the radicals that they are. There is no longer any pretense about what they do. They are owning the fact that they are destroying human life and proud of it.
Our great friend David Ripley with us, IdahoChoosesLife.org. So we've got Representative Scott, Representative Green. They're going to take a lot of incoming. Where are we as far as the rest of the pro-life movement in the Idaho legislature? And again, you were always a big fan, rightfully so, of our old friend, the Hulk Hogan of Idaho politics, Butch Otter, former governor. What about the new governor, Governor Little? Your thoughts? I know it's early, but your thoughts, David Ripley.
Well, it is early. I'm very hopeful about what that he will continue the pro-life values of his predecessor. We've had some good conversations with him, and I think he's a person that we're going to be able to count on over this term and probably another. For us, right now, the biggest concern in the state of Idaho is this Medicaid expansion. And I've been working my tail off at the legislature to advise members of the legislature that if they do not take action, Planned Parenthood is going to come in for a windfall of new money through this Medicaid expansion. And it's going to require them to take action and to put some, modifications to that expansion approved by the voters last fall in order to prevent Planned Parenthood from getting the money and making sure that, the money that we're going to spend to give health care to vulnerable Idahoans is going to be legitimate health care and not some kind of subsidy to the abortion industry.
David, what else are you hearing in the legislature? Anything else? Obviously, Medicaid expansion taking up a huge swath of bandwidth, of money. People saying the grocery tax will not be repealed this year. We've gotten that from the majority leader. The lieutenant governor believes that it will happen. What are the other big news facing the folks here in Idaho?
Well, I think one of the stunning developments in this was just this last week when, the Department of Health and Welfare fessed up to the fact that this Medicaid expansion was going to amount to $400 million in the first year of full operation. And I can tell you that was not a number I heard going into the campaign last fall. And
I heard we were going to get $40 million from the federal government, David. Pardon the interruption.
Well, it's all free. It's all free money, except the program is $400 million, right? And that's some pretty serious money. And I'm guessing that if they cop to that number, I think the real number in the first year is going to be much larger, maybe $450 million. And, our argument down there is that there is a strategy that can be used to make sure that Planned Parenthood doesn't get its hands on any of that money, that it goes to legitimate health care and quality health care for women. But it's going to take some hard decisions by this legislature. And I'm worried at this point. It's been a very difficult session so far.
David Ripley, if people want to help Idaho Chooses Life, what can they do?
Well, I think the first thing that we need is a lot of prayer support. We are beginning to get the pro-life community mobilized and tuned into to the fact that Planned Parenthood is about to come in for this money, and they're going to have to get on the phone with their legislators, sending them emails, and encouraging them to take a stand to make sure that Idaho money is well spent. If we're going to do this, we should do it right. And women deserve to have quality health care. Planned Parenthood's already confessed they don't even have doctors at these 3 clinics that they operate in the state. And I think it's a travesty that we would even think about giving those people money and calling it health care for women. Women deserve better.
IdahoChoosesLife.org. Don't be a stranger.
Yes, sir. Well, I sure appreciate the chance to talk to people about what we're doing and how that can help. So, Lord bless you, Kevin.
God bless you, my friend David Ripley. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. We go to Kevin in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Kev.
Kevin, good morning. How are you?
Living the dream, and you?
I'm doing the same. Thanks. Hey, with regard to the gentleman just on the radio, I'm trying to think of how to state my opinions and case here in a chronological order, but he should be commended for the fact that he mentioned he doesn't want abortion or the act of abortion or the women who go through that process to be criminalized and to be jailed and punished. Nobody goes to an abortion provider happily. Nobody goes saying, I'm excited to do this. Everybody who has that procedure, I think, leaves with some regrets, with some fear, with some stress, and those women should be supported when they leave, but in addition, with funding to be encouraged to go through the pregnancy, deliver the baby, and to have the support once the baby is born, to be able to support the baby herself and with her family. So I'll give him some kudos for that statement. However, the gentleman said that he is and maintains the pro-life stance, but yet he said he's praying that your apprentice president gets to appoint another Supreme Court justice for the next however many days or months he's in office. So if he's praying for that act, under what circumstances does he want the president to appoint another Supreme Court justice, and what would be the trigger for that to happen? I don't see any liberal Supreme Court justice stepping down anytime soon. So I'm wondering what exactly is he praying for? It wouldn't happen to be the death of one of our current 4 liberal Supreme Court justices, would it? I'd be curious to know what his feelings are with regards to the Second Amendment and guns and the gun violence that takes place in this country, and global warming, because without addressing the global warming issue, all the kids are going to die. All the kids are going to melt at some point. So,
well, they're not melting in Chicago, Kev.
Right, because a one-time weather occurrence is indicative of global warming as a whole.
I mean, 20 years ago, we were talking global freezing, and now again,
sure we were, right. And I know most Idahoans, most deplorables listen to the show don't look outside the borders of Idaho except as far past as Ontario, Oregon. But in Australia, there's a giant heat wave going on. It's the hottest Australia's ever been. So,
well, tell that to the folks in the Midwest. And if you'd allow me, I just wanted to respond a little to your question. I apologize. I thought you wanted to talk afterwards. I'm sure Mr. Ripley would have had no problem answering your questions, but you believe that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is competent and should continue on with the court, even though there have been numerous published reports concerning her falling asleep during these arguments, missing several of these court cases and everything else.
Well, we have an apprentice president that falls asleep during his briefings and spends the time watching Fox News playing golf. So how effective is he in his office?
He's been working diligently, and he didn't leave town during the shutdown.
Well, that's good. I'm glad he didn't decide to
But you didn't answer my question about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Kev.
No, I agree. No, sir, I agree with you to the point where I don't think Supreme Court justices should be appointed for life. And I think there should be some sort of limit. I don't know how many years that is, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. But at some point, no, I would agree with you in that if you can't perform the duties of your job, then you should pass on the torch to somebody else who can.
Now, Kev, I need to ask you, because I'm getting inundated from a lot of people. Are you someone who's a lib?
Well, I have voted for Republican candidates in the past, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I think.
So you didn't vote
time,
for Obama.
Go ahead.
So you didn't vote for Obama.
No, I didn't vote for Obama.
Well,
and
okay.
I don't think he did a bad job. I think he took a country and an economy that was falling apart between the years of 2001, 2008. Not entirely George Bush's fault, but I think he took what he was handed and turned it around to the point where America was a better place in 2016 than it was in 2008.
Now but you're not a fan of the current president.
No, I'm not. I think he is a con artist. I think he is not making America great again. I don't think he's for we the people. I think he's for me the president. I think he's there to line his pocketbooks, do as long as he can, to surround himself with grifters and people with money who think that they have the ability to make the best decisions for this country. And some things have gone well in spite of him, not because of him. That's my belief. I think that America deserves a chance to have a couple candidates in 2020, whether that's Mr. Schultz, or whether that's Kamala Harris or somebody else, or even a fourth person who comes in and challenges the president. I think that that's good for the health of this country to have different voices to be out there, to give people a chance to sit down and decide who they think is best to lead this country. I don't think the current president is.
And did you vote for him or Hillary Clinton?
I lived in a blue state at the time, an extremely blue state at the time in 2016. So my vote really, thanks to the Electoral College, had no bearing because Hillary was going to win that state by a 70-30 margin.
What state was
so
that?
I voted for neither. I'm sorry?
What state was that, Kev?
It was one of the states that borders Idaho to the west.
Kev.
Now, I voted, and to be honest with you, I voted for Gary Johnson. And I did it.
Look, we may agree to disagree, but we'd love to have you call in. We appreciate you. Welcome to Idaho.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you.
Have a great day, Kevin.
Thank you, Kev. Phone number is 580-5436. Kev calling the president the grifter in chief. By the way, there's a news proposal by the Democrats. Boy, you're going to love this one. The rich should be taxed up to 90%. That's right. Tax the rich at 90%. Boy, that's a big tent Democratic policy, isn't it? We'll let you react to it next. Plus, more of your phone calls. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio.
One of them is that we could increase the taxes that people are paying who are the extremely wealthy in our community. So 70%, 80%. We've had it as high as 90%. The other thing that
There we have it, how they're going to fund the new Green Deal, 90% taxing the rich. You talk about a great exodus of the American wealthy. Oh, my goodness gracious. Before we get to Jared and pro-life, traffic and weather together.
7's Eric Gabbard.
Kevin Miller in the morning. Back to your phone calls. Jared in Nampa. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Morning, Kevin. So there's interesting fact. 24% of our abortion costs that happen go through either the state or the federal government. So 24% of it is paid for by the government. And that's like $350 to $950 for first trimester and then more for second trimester and probably a lot more for those third trimester situations that are now supposedly being approved of. So, I mean, even if you want to look at it fiscally, you can say that the government is supporting people to go out and get abortions, which is way less costly than it is to actually have a baby. So what are we promoting in the United States? And I think that if we're going to promote something, we should be promoting birth. We should be paying for part of that birth as a government. We should be supporting that life. We should be supporting that responsibility. And to not do that for parents that are having a baby, but then promote death is very contrary to the idea of supporting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I really have an issue with that. I really think that the government needs to stand behind what matters most in this country. And whether they allow abortions or not is one thing, second most important thing, if they're going to allow it, is that they need to be able to promote the right choice and support people who want to make the right choice, not support people who are trying to make choices that are improper, immoral, and eventually, after the second or third abortion, they don't really notice it anymore.
Jared, great thoughts. God bless. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.